2 months ago, we went to go and look at 2 potential hypercar projects.
The first was a Ford GT out in Dubai,
And the other one
was a Bugatti Chiron Per Sport.
We did the impossible, but now it's going to get a lot harder because everything from now on is building the car and fixing it. We've got all the damaged parts off. Everyone thought that was hard, but it weren't. Really.
Bugatti said the repair barrier could not be broken. They sent a technician from France to confirm it. They locked the VIN to enforce it. They had their CEO make a 10-minute video to explain it. And Matt Armstrong just broke it anyway. Not with Bugatti's help. Not with their parts. Not with their approval or their blessing or their grudging acceptance that what he was doing was even possible. He broke it with a rubbish bin, a set of basic workshop tools, creative engineering that no manufacturer had anticipated, and a determination so absolute that every wall Bugatti built became nothing more than the next problem to solve. The repair barrier is broken, and Bugatti is not going to like what that means. Think about what a repair barrier actually is. Because the phrase sounds abstract until you understand the specific, concrete, deliberately constructed reality it describes. A repair barrier is not an accident. It is not a consequence of engineering complexity that nobody planned for. It is a decision, a deliberate choice made by a manufacturer to ensure that the only viable path to fixing their car when something goes seriously wrong runs to their authorized network, at their price, on their terms, and nobody else's. The VIN lock is a repair barrier. The refused parts request is a repair barrier. The requirement that the car be transported to a factory in France for repairs that require specialized equipment available at only 2 facilities in the world is a repair barrier. Bugatti did not accidentally make their car difficult to repair independently. They designed the difficulty in. They built the barriers into the process. And they enforce those barriers through every tool available to a billion-dollar manufacturer when a YouTuber from Leicester with 6 million subscribers bought a crashed Chiron and decided he was going to fix it. Every single tool. And it was not enough. The barrier is broken. And what Matt Armstrong broke it with tells the whole story about why it was always going to break. To understand the full significance of this barrier-breaking moment, you need to understand exactly how high Bugatti built the walls before Matt Armstrong started climbing them, because the barriers in this specific case were not ordinary. They were not the standard manufacturer reluctance that independent mechanics encounter when working on premium cars. They were extraordinary, specifically designed, and backed by the full weight of a manufacturer that had decided this particular rebuild was a problem they needed to contain. It started with the VIN lock. The decision to instruct every authorized Bugatti dealer worldwide that no parts could be sold for the specific car's vehicle identification number. A global instruction that effectively removed the entire official part supply chain from Matt Armstrong's available resources in a single corporate decision. Then came the repair estimate. $1.7 million in parts alone. A number so large that it functioned less as a quote and more as a message. A message that said this path is closed. The only option is Molscium. The only price is ours. The only hands that touch this car beyond this point belong to our network. Then came the technician, flown from France to inspect the car, and declared a total loss. Another message, professional, official, unambiguous. This car is beyond independent repair. Accept it and move on. And then came the CEO, Mate Rimac, personal, public, 10 minutes on Instagram explaining in detail why what Matt Armstrong was attempting was beyond the capability of any independent workshop anywhere in the world. 4 walls, built one after another, each one designed to be the final barrier, each one designed to be the wall that ends the story. And Matt Armstrong walked through every single one of them. But here is what nobody fully appreciated about Matt Armstrong's approach to each of these barriers as they appeared. Here is the detail that makes the barrier-breaking story more than just a tale of stubbornness triumphing over corporate opposition. Each barrier Matt Armstrong encountered was met not with confrontation, but with creativity, not with aggression, but with engineering, not with lawyers or public campaigns or legislative arguments, but with the specific, practical, hands-on problem-solving that is the only language that matters in a workshop. The VIN lock meant no official parts. So he found unofficial ones. He built a network of alternative sources that the official supply chain had no visibility into. He sourced through private sales and specialist dealers and international contacts and channels that Bugatti's corporate communications team had not considered when they were designing the barrier. The $1.7 million estimate was not a price. It was a closed door, so he found another door. He 3D scanned damaged components. He converted scans into CAD models. He CNC machined replacements that met the specification of the originals without involving Bugatti's parts department at any stage of the process. The technician's total loss declaration was not a verdict. It was an opinion. And opinions, unlike structural engineering, are not load-bearing. Matt Armstrong continued regardless. And the CEO's 10-minute video was not a final word. It was the beginning of a conversation that Matt Armstrong continued by simply doing what the CEO said could not be done. One solved problem at a time. One documented breakthrough at a time. 1 million viewers watching each time, the 1 million viewers watching each time the barrier moved. Now let's talk about the specific moment the repair barrier visibly broke. The moment that the automotive community watching this build recognized as the point of no return. Not the moment the car started. Not the moment the monocoques were reunited. Not any of the individual technical achievements that this rebuild produced along the way. The moment the repair barrier broke was the moment Matt Armstrong split the chassis. Because Bugatti had stated publicly and specifically that splitting the Chiron's chassis required specialized equipment available at only 2 facilities in the entire world. 2 out of every workshop, every garage, every engineering facility in existence anywhere on the planet. 2 had what was needed, and neither of them was in Leicester. That specific claim, made with the authority of a manufacturer who had built the car and understood its construction better than anyone else alive, was the highest barrier in the entire sequence. Because it was technical, because it was specific, barrier moved. Because it was not a policy decision or a corporate communication choice, but a statement about physical reality. You cannot do this without equipment that you do not have. And Matt Armstrong did it with a rubbish bin. Let that land. A rubbish bin. The piece of equipment that made the difference between being able to split the chassis of a $4 million Bugatti Chiron per Sport and not being able to split, it was not a specialist rig manufacturer for the specific purpose of servicing this car. It was not equipment that exists at only 2 facilities in the world. It was an improvised solution involving a rubbish bin that Matt Armstrong's team devised in a workshop in Leicester by understanding the physics of the problem and applying that understanding with the kind of practical creativity that formal engineering education sometimes trains out of people rather than into them. When Bugatti said the chassis could only be split with specialized equipment, they were describing what their process requires. They were not describing what the physics requires. And the gap between their process and the physics is exactly where Matt Armstrong operates. That gap is where every barrier breaks. And when the chassis separated, when the 2 halves of Bugatti Chiron per Sport that everyone said could not be separated outside 2 specific facilities came apart in a workshop in Leicester, the repair barrier did not just crack. It shattered. Completely. Publicly. In front of millions of people. And Bugatti had nothing left in that specific argument to deploy. But here's what came out when the chassis split that nobody was fully prepared for. Here's a discovery that was waiting inside the car, hidden by the undivided monocoque, impossible to fully assess until the moment the front and rear sections separated and the damage that the crash had done to the car's internal architecture became visible. The engine had moved forward. In the impact, the forces had pushed the 4-liter W16 power plant forward into the space it was not designed to occupy. Coolant lines were crushed. Surrounding components were dented. And the aluminum bracket between the engine and the gearbox, the component designed specifically to brake and crash to redirect forces through the monocoque and protect the powertrain, had done its job completely. It had fractured, as designed. And the fractured bracket sitting at the heart of this disassembled Bugatti was simultaneously proof that the car's engineering had worked exactly as intended, and the next barrier, in a sequence of barriers that showed no sign of ending. But Matt Armstrong's team had a plan involving 3D scanning and CAD modeling and CNC machining that turned the absence of an OEM replacement component from a full stop into a question that engineering and manufacturing technology was going to answer. Now, Let us talk about the improvisation moments. Because one of the most revealing aspects of how this rebuild unfolded, one of the details that tells the most honest story about what breaking the repair barrier actually looks like in practice, is not the dramatic engineering achievements. It is the small ones, the moments of improvisation that fill the gaps between the headline breakthroughs. The pinch, cool, and overflow pipe that needed fixing when no Bugatti parts were available. Sorted with a section of rigid brake hose. Not a factory solution. Not a specification repair. An improvised one. Functional. Practical. Addressing the immediate problem with the resources available rather than waiting for resources that were not coming. An accelerator pedal. The component that controls all 1,479 horsepower of the W16 engine. The interface between the driver's foot and the most powerful production road car engine in history. A piece of molded plastic. Not billet aluminum. Not a precision machine component worthy of the engineering that surrounds it. A piece of molded plastic. The same material that might be used in a family hatchback. And when Matt Armstrong pointed that out, when he noted it with a specific combination of amusement and respect that defines his relationship with these cars, something clicked for the audience watching. A Bugatti is extraordinary. And a Bugatti is also just a car, made of parts, some of them extraordinary, some of them surprisingly ordinary, and all of them fixable by someone who refuses to be intimidated by the badge on the bonnet. The Audi A3 airbag decision deserves its own chapter in the repair barrier story, because the decision to source airbags from an Audi A3 for installation in a Bugatti Chiron per Sport was exactly the kind of decision that the internet was going to lose its mind about. And it did, briefly, until the explanation arrived. Bugatti and Audi share a parent company in the Volkswagen Group. Within the Volkswagen Group, safety-critical components, including airbags, are shared across platforms. The airbag in a Bugatti Chiron is not hand-built by specialist engineers in a dedicated Bugatti facility. It comes from the same supply chain that serves